Hello student, welcome to my class. Today I am going to take class 9 geography. It is chapter 6 and the name of the chapter is population. So let's proceed. So as you know student that the population is a very important aspect to be studied in geography because it studies the population of a human, and human is the most important resource of the earth. There is no resource on earth which is more important than human. It is human which give development to the country. It is human which develop the society and the economy. And the resource become resource only because of the human. It's human which make the resource a resource, because if the human don't use his knowledge, if the human don't use his technology, then that resource will not become a resource. A coal is just a piece of rock. If the human don't put that coal in use, then the coal is just a piece of rock. The coal will become resource only when the human realize it is important. If the human uses knowledge and technique and put it in use, then the coal will become a resource. A diamond is just a piece of stone. If human don't realize it, if human don't value it, if human don't use his knowledge and skill and technique and put it in use, then even the diamond is just a stone. So a resource become a resource because of human. A disaster is a disaster because it's affecting the human. So a good thing is becoming a good thing because of a human, and a bad thing is becoming a bad thing because of a human. So all the aspect of the environment, whether it is good or bad, is every aspect of the environment is meaningless without human beings, because human is the important resource. Human is only the producer, human is only the consumer of all the things on the earth. Human is producing various things on the earth, and then human is itself is consuming those things on the earth. So as the human is very important, so the study of the population of human is also important. We need to know how many people are living. We need to know what is the characteristic and nature of those people, how they are growing, how they are distributed, what is their density. So all these things we should know, and we should know every information about the population of the human. And all this information about the population of human is given to us by the census. So because the population study is very important, so there are some questions which arises when you study the population of the human. So there are three main questions which arises when you study the population, and those three questions are: what is the size of the population and the distribution of the population? Means size of the population means number of population, how many people are living and how they are distributed and located in various places. So this is the first question which you have to deal with while you study the population. The second question which you deal with while studying the population is the population growth and the process of population change. Population growth is how the population is growing, whether the population is increasing or the population is decreasing, or how it is changing with the course of time. So these things also needed to be studied when you study the population. And the third question which you need to answer while studying the population is the characteristic and the quality of the population. The population which you are studying, are they educated? Are they healthy? What is their sex ratio? What is their age composition? What occupation they are doing? All this is decide the characteristic and the nature of the population. So all these things also we needed to be studied while dealing with population. So we will deal with all these three questions one by one. So first we will start with the first question, and that is the size of the population and distribution. So according to the census of 2011, it says that India's population is 120.1 billion, that is 17.5% of the world total population. So what is the size of our population? It is 120.1 billion according to 2011 data, and it is almost 17.5% of the world total population. And what is the area of our country? The area of our country is 3.28 million square kilometer. In data it is 3.28 million square kilometer, but in reality it is only 3.17 million square kilometer. So why it is different in data and reality? because in our country, you know, you in the Kashmir part, you have some area which is being occupied by the Pakistan. It is POK, Pakistan occupied Kashmir. So that area is actually belongs to India. We consider that area is a place of India. So while giving the data, we consider that area also in our calculation, and then we give the number 3.28 million square kilometer. But in reality, still that area is not came in the hand of India. So in reality, we have actually only 3.17 million square kilometer under our control, and the total area which we occupied on earth is about 2.4% of the total area of the world. So when you see the number of the percentage of the population and percentage of the area, when you compare the percentage of population and the percentage of area, you can see that the percentage of population is more and the percentage of area is less. So we actually have more population than our area, and this population is unevenly distributed. Whether you see the population distribution on the earth or on in India, the population distribution is uneven in everywhere. And you can see that this pie diagram is given in your book. It is showing the population distribution of the world and India. The broken part of this pie diagram is the part of India's population. So this is the part of India's population, and rest is the population of the whole world. Alright. So this is the second pie chart is also showing the percentage of India's total area in the world total area. The broken part is showing the percentage of total area which the India is occupied. So when you compare the part of the population, this piece is quite bigger than the area which we are occupying. The area part is smaller. So you can say that the population is more and the area is less. Alright, so now we will see the population distribution in India, and which is quite uneven. The population is not equally distributed. It's not like that you have the 100 people staying in this state and 100 people staying in that state. It's not equally distributed. Some places are having more population and some places of India is having less population. According to 2001 data, UP itself is having 16% of the total population of India. So you can say the one state UP itself is having the 16% of population of India. On the other hand, if you see the population of Sikkim, it is very, very less. And if you see the population of Lakshadweep, it is also very less. So in one state you have more population like UP, and in another state like Sikkim you have very, very less population. And there is also, if you see the on the basis of union territory, so Lakshadweep is the union territory which have the least population in our country. And if you see the 5 states of India, the 50% of our population, half of the population of India stay in only the 5 states of India, that is UP, Bihar, Maharashtra, West Bengal and Andhra Pradesh. So this 5 states of India is having the half of the India's population. 50% of India population is staying in this 5 states itself. And Rajasthan is the biggest state of our country, and it is only having the 6% population. Though it is only though it is the biggest state of India, but still it is having only the 6% population of India. And then Maharashtra have 10% population, UP have 16% population, and Bihar have 8.5% population of India. So all this information about the population, how many people are staying and in which place, how many people are staying, which state have more population, which state have less population, all this information is given to you by the census, which is conducted in every 10 years in India. So if you are asked to give the definition of census, then census is actually the official enumeration. It is in Hindi, it is called Janaganana. Alright, so it is official enumeration of the people. It is counting of the people in a country in every 10 years. It is conducted periodically. It is not conducted every year. It is conducted after a period of time. It is conducted after a period of 10 years. And this is called census. When you do the counting of the people, when you do the official enumeration of the people, it is called census, and it is conducted every 10 years. And the first census in India was conducted in 1872, but that was not a complete census. The complete census of India was conducted in 1881. as I told you that the half the population of India, 50% population of India is occupied by this 5 states, and those states were UP, Bihar, West Bengal, Maharashtra and Andhra Pradesh. It's occupying almost the half of the population of India. You can see the down part, only these 5 states are occupying the 50% population of our country. Alright, now we will see the Indian population distribution by density. So we are going to see the density of our country. So density is also very uneven in India, because the distribution is uneven, so the density is uneven. So what is density? Density actually tell you about the how many people are living in a place. Alright, so it is actually the number of people living or inhabiting a place in a per square kilometer or in a particular unit of area. So how many people are living in every square kilometer is the density of that place. So some places have high density, some places have low density, but India's density on an average is 382% per square kilometer. That means it is actually, with the data of 2011, it is 382% per square kilometer. It means that in every square kilometer of India, there are 382 people living. Alright, and then India's density is uneven. As I told you, there are some states which have more density and there are some states which have less density. Like Bihar has the highest density. It is about 1102% per square kilometer. Means in every square kilometer of Bihar, there are 1102 people are living. Whereas on the other hand, on the extreme side, you have Arunachal Pradesh, where only 17% are living in per square kilometer. So you can see how much density difference we have in India. Alright, there are some states which have low density, there are some states which have high density of population. So why there are some places which have low density of population? It is because these states are having the low density of population because sometimes the topography of that place is not good. It's a hilly area which is very difficult to live, or it does not have a good climate condition, or sometimes it cannot have some good soil, fertile soil. Then because of all this reason, some or the other reason, because of the unfavorable climate or bad topography or bad soil, less people prefer to live in that area. So that's why there are some places which have less population and there are some places which have more population. So in India, we have high density of population in Bihar, West Bengal and Kerala. And then we have the low density of population in the northeastern state of India. Alright, and then we have the moderate density of population in Assam and in southern state of India. In all the northeastern state, only Assam is having the moderate density of population, whereas all the other northeastern state have low density. The northern side state of India is generally having the high density of population, and the southern side of state of India and the Assam is having the moderate density of population. Alright, now we will see the second question of our population. As I told you in the beginning, we have to deal with the 3 questions. So first we deal with the size and distribution. Now we will deal with the population growth and the process of population change. So you know our population is very dynamic. It's keep on changing. Its number is changing, its composition is changing, its distribution is also changing. And it mostly depend on 3 factors: birth rate, death rate and migration. And birth rate and death rate decide the number of population. The size of the population is decided by the birth rate and the death rate only. But the migration decides the density of the population of a place. So, what is population growth? So, first we will understand what is population growth. Population growth is nothing but the change in the number of population. How the population of a place or the people living in a place or the people inhabiting a place has changed with the course of time. Whether it is changed in 1 year or it changed in 10 years. In whatever time, how the population of a place is changed. That is called population growth. And it can be expressed in 2 ways. Either you can express those change in number form, or you can express that change in a percentage form. So when you express that change in a number form, you express the magnitude of the change. Alright, you express that change in number. You can just minus the latter population by the earlier population and you can have the number of population change. Suppose in last year the population of X place was 2000. This year the population of X place is 3000. Then you have to minus the 2000 from the 3000. You have to minus the latter year population. The latter year population that is about 3000. You have to minus with the earlier population. If the population was 2000 earlier and 3000 now, then the population 2000 will be minus from the 3000 and you will get the result 1000. So what is the absolute change in the population of a place X? Then it is about 1000. So absolute number change means it's showing you the number of population has changed in a place. And then you can express the change also in the percentage form. When you express this change in the form of percentage or the rate at which the population has changed, it is called the percentage change of a population. Suppose the population is increased by 2% or the population decreased by 2%. That means the population in every 100%, 2 people are increasing or 2 people are decreasing. Alright. So you can express this change either in the form of number or in the form of percentage. So if we compare the population growth, if you see the population growth rate, alright, growth rate if you see from 1951 to 2011, if you compare the data of the 1951 to 2011 and if you see the growth rate of the population from 1951 to 2011, you will find that the growth rate of India from 1951 to 1981 is increasing. But after 1981, it started decreasing, because we were able to control our birth rate to some extent. Alright. So even if the growth rate is decreasing, it does not mean that our population is decreasing. Even if the growth rate decrease, our population will increase. How? Because suppose if the earlier our population growth rate was 4%. This year our population growth rate is 1%. So what is happening to the growth rate? It has decreased from 4% to the 1%. But it does not mean that the population will not grow now. It will grow. Earlier in every 100%, 4% was increasing, means in every 100%, 4 people was increasing. Now it is increasing by 1%. That means in every 100%, 1 person is increasing. So even in the growth rate has decreased, but still the population is increasing, no? It has increased from 100 to 101. So even if the population growth rate of India has decreased, it does not mean that our population has stopped growing. It's still growing, but it's not growing at that fast rate at which it was growing in the past. And so because our growth rate is decreased but not our population growth, and so our India population is increasing fastly, and soon it is estimated to beat China by 2045, and we will soon in 2005 we are expected to become the most populated country of the world. So you can see this figure, it's given in your book also. The bar diagram is showing you the number of population growth in a year, in different year, how the population is growing. And on the top of the bar diagram you have a line diagram, right? You have the line diagram, you can see the line diagram, it is showing the population growth rate. So what is happening to the population growth rate? From 1951 to 81 it is increasing, but after 1981 you can see it is decreasing, but still the population is growing, right? The bar diagram is increasing every year, but the growth rate has decreased. Earlier it was increasing, but now it is decreasing. So we have to see now what is the process of population change, means how the population is changing. It is changes because of the 3 main process, and those 3 main processes are birth rate, death rate and migration. So what is birth rate? It is the number of people born per 1,000 person in a year. Means how many babies are being born in every 1,000 person. See, we calculate our birth rate, death rate or sex ratio, everything we calculate in 1,000 only. We don't calculate it in 100. Many countries calculate it in 100 also, but India prefer to calculate it in 1,000. So we have to see everything in 1,000 only. Alright. So in the birth rate we see the number of people born per 1,000 person. Means how many people are being born per 1,000 person in a year is the birth rate of that place. So it is a very important characteristic in India's population, because in India every time the birth rate is more than the death rate, and so our population is increasing. Then we have the second factor, that is death rate. Death rate means number of people died per 1,000 person in a year. It is just the opposite of the birth rate. Alright. So death rate is also important to decide the population change, because there is an inverse relationship, opposite relationship between the death rate and the population growth. When death rate decreases, population grow fastly. The population increases when death rate decreases, and if the death rate increases, the population decreases. Alright, so because our population our death rate has decreased, so our population is being increased. Till 1918 you can see that there was a high birth rate and high death rate, and so the population was not increasing very fastly. Earlier we did not had a good medical facilities, and our birth rate and death rate was almost equal, and so we did not had any tension about the population growth, because how many people were being born, those people were being that many people were being died also. They used to die because of some or the other reason, because some or the other diseases, and so our population was not increasing, because number of people born and number of people died was equal. All right, but now because we have controlled the death rate and birth rate is not yet controlled to that extent, and so our population is being increased day by day. And after 1981, of course, the birth rate has decreased to some extent. If you compare the birth rate of the earlier time, it has decreased to some extent, but still we needed to control it to a big extent. And this birth rate and the death rate itself calculate the natural growth of a population. So if you have to see the natural growth of a population in a place, how the nature is increasing the number of people in a place, then you have to minus the death rate from the birth rate. Alright, if you minus the death rate from the birth rate, you will get the natural growth of a population in a place. Alright, so these are the two factors which decide the population change, but there is third factor also, that is called migration. So migration also decides the change of population of a place. So what is migration? It is the movement of a people from one place to another place, from one region to the another region, and it is of the two types, international migration and international migration. Internal migration and international migration. What is those two types of migration? Internal and international. What is internal migration? Internal migration is the migration in which the people move within the country. They are moving from one state of a country to another state of the country. And when you move from one state of the country to the another state of the country, actually the total population of the country does not change. It does not change the number of the people in a country, right? If you are moving from the Maharashtra to Gujarat, it does not mean the population of India will change. India population will remain the same, all right? But of course the density of population will change. If 100 people are migrating from Maharashtra and going to the Gujarat, then the density of population from Maharashtra will decrease and density of population in Gujarat will increase. But it does not change the number of population of India. And international population is population migration between the countries. Suppose if from India they are going and settling in the America, or from Russia they are coming and settling in India. So this is called international migration. International migration change the number, it change the composition of a place, and it changes the distribution of the people of the place. So everything is changed because of the international migration. There are two types of migration of the population. And migration in India, within India, that is internal migration, is mostly done from the rural area to the urban area. If you will mostly hear the news of people from the villages are going and settling in the cities. You will not hear the news of people from the cities coming and settling in the villages. Generally people move from village to city. So people are moving from rural area to urban area. So why these people are moving from the rural area and to the urban area? It is because of the pull factor and the push factor. So what is pull factor and push factor? See, there are some factors which push the people out from a place, which forces the people don't want to leave that place, but because of some circumstances, some factors, they are forced to leave that place. And there are some places which attract you toward itself, it pull you towards itself, that is called pull factor. So in villages, in the rural area, you have the push factor. What is the push factor in the village? The unemployment in the village, the illiteracy in the village, the lack of facility in the village. All this lack of facility, lack of employment pushes the people out from the villages. And what is attracting those people to the urban area? The pull factors of employment. You have comparatively more employment in the cities, you have comparatively more facility in the cities, you have education, you have the health facility in the cities. All right, so all these factors are pulling the people towards the cities. So this is called the pull factors of the urban area. So because of the push factor and the pull factor, the people are moving from the rural area to urban area. So you have seen that the migration changed the number, migration changed the composition, and migration changed the distribution of the population, and people are generally moving from the rural area to the urban area. And because of the movement of people from the rural area to the urban area, the population of urban area has increased to 31.8% in today's date. And there are various million plus cities in our country, and those million plus cities in our country has increased up to 53 number. So the million plus city has increased in our country to 53. What is million plus city? It is the city which have population of more than million plus. And because the people are moving from the rural to the urban area, the population of cities is going on increasing, and it has increased to the increase more than million in a place, and that is called million plus city. And now we will answer the third question of the population, that is the characteristic and quality of the population. So we'll study about this. So how can you know the characteristic and the quality of the population? By seeing the various aspect of the population. You can know about it by age composition. So what is age composition? Age composition is actually the number of people in different age group. See, in the population you have some children, you have some adult people, you have some aged people. So what is the number of the children in the population? What is the number of adult people in the population? What is the number of aged people in the population is called the age composition of that population. And it is important characteristic which is needed to be known. Why it is needed to be known? What you will understand if you know the age composition? See, suppose if you understand that there are more children in your population, the age composition of children is more in your population, it means that you have to provide more school. If you have more adult people, that means you have to provide more employment. If you have more aged group in your population, that means you have to provide more health facilities. So by knowing the age composition, you can take many decisions. You can understand what they need, what they want to buy, what they can do, and what is their capacity. So all these things you will understand when you will study the age composition of the population. And in the socio-economic structure, you have three age group, that is children age group, working age group, and aged group. So what is children age group? It include all those population which are below 15 year comes under the children age group, and they are actually economic unproductive. What is unproductive means? They are not producing anything, they are not doing any economic activity, they are not earning anything, and they are not giving any money to the country. And in fact they need many things. They need food, they need clothes, they need education, they need health facilities. So all these things they needed to be provided, and they are giving nothing to the country. And then you have the working age group. Working age groups are the groups which are the working population of our country. They are economically productive. They are doing job for the country. They are producing money for the country, and they are earning for the country. They are doing the economic activities and economic development of the country. They are also biologically reproductive. What is biologically reproductive? It means these are the age group which are producing the children also, because the children will not produce the children, the adult aged group will not produce the children. It is this group, this working age will produce the children, and it will increase the population of the country. And because you have the working age, you need to provide the more employment to this group also. The people which come under the working age are the people of 15 year to 59 year. So people between the 15 year to 59 age group comes under the working age group. And then you have the third group, that is aged group, and it includes the people all above the age of 59 year. Alright, and they are the people mostly those people who have been retired and who have who are doing small job because of their retirement, or they are doing no jobs, and they have achieved the age of 60s and above, and they are actually the senior citizen of our country and not suitable for the job. That's why they are not doing job. Earlier they must have done some job, but now they are retired people, and these people are actually very little reproductive. Even if they are doing some job also, they don't come under the active population, they don't come under the reproductive groups. All right, so they are all actually under the non-productive groups. So actually the children and the aged group, both the groups are the dependent population of our country. They don't do jobs, they are dependent on the active population, and this working age are the active population, working population, and the independent population of our country. So you can see the pie diagram. In this you can see that in India we have the 3 age group, and the adult age group, that is working age, is more in India. So this indicates that we need to provide them more employment, and also because the working age group is more, so the reproduction of the children will also be more, because they are biologically reproductive group. So this will lead to the increase in the population of our country also. And then we will see the second aspect which will decide the characteristic of a place is a characteristic of the population is sex ratio. So what is sex ratio? It is the number of female per 1000 male, means how many female are there in every 1000 man. So this is called the sex ratio of a place in a year. And why we needed to calculate the sex ratio? Because sex ratio tell you about the equality and inequality in the society. Whether your society is having equality between man and women or not can be understood by the sex ratio. If the people are equal, if the man and women are equal, that means it is favorable sex ratio. But if the number of female is less than the number of male, that means in your country the female is suffering inequality. And because there is infanticides of women, there is a female foeticide, that's why the female percentage is less. So when you study the sex ratio of a place, you understand in that society whether the equality is existing between man or women or not. And in India, when you study the sex ratio, you will find that it is quite unfavorable for the women's. The women's sex ratio is quite less compared to male. Then we have to study the literacy rate. So what is literacy rate? It is the education. Alright, if the people are educated or not. And why this educated and informative peoples are important? Because educated people and the informative people, they are the people who are very intelligent, and they can do the best choices in their life, and they can develop the country. Alright, and they can do research and development, and they can lead to economic development of a place. Alright, so that's why education is important, and when we study the literacy rate, we can understand that our country is educated or not, and whether it will help in development or not. Alright, so what is literate according to you? The census of 2001 has defined the definition of literate, and it says that every person above the age of 7. Below the age of 7, we don't consider them for the literacy or literacy. Only after the age of 7 we see the literacy rate. Alright, so if the people above the age of 7 and they are able to read and write in any language, it's not necessary that they can read and write in English or in Hindi. They can read and write in any language they prefer. Alright, if they can read and write in any language, then they are literate. Alright, in India we have literacy rate of 73%. We have the 73% literacy rate in India. And if you see the individually man and women's literacy rate, then literacy rate of male in India is 81% and female literacy rate is only 66%. It means that in education field also the women are lagging behind man because of inequalities in the society. The fourth aspect of the characteristic of population is the occupational structure. The occupational structure also speak a lot about the countries, because occupational structure, we see the occupational structure only for the working age group. When you saw the age group, you saw the children age group, you saw the aged age group and the working age group. So for the working age group, we see the occupational structure, and we see in which occupation this working age are involved, which type of occupation they are doing, and that is called the occupational structure of our country. So there are basically three types of occupation: primary occupation, secondary occupation and tertiary occupation. So primary occupation is the occupation which is related to the nature. It deals with agriculture, animal husbandry, fishing, mining, etc. And the secondary occupation is the occupation which deals with manufacturing and industrial work and construction work. And then tertiary occupation is the service sector. It provides various types of service like health service, education service, banking service, research service, transportation service, tourist service. So all these are the three types of occupation which is done in any country. Alright. So by seeing in which type of occupation a country's population is involved, we can speak a lot about the country. How? Because when you see the occupation, in which occupation these people are occupied, it indicates the development of the country. How it indicates the development of the country? Because if the more people are involved in the primary occupation, that means that country is not well developed. And that's why, because there is no industrialization and urbanization and development in that country, that's why people are doing more agriculture work or the primary activity. And if the country is developed, then that population will more engage in the secondary and tertiary activity. So if the people have engaged more in secondary and tertiary occupation, that means the country is developed. If you see the occupational structure and find that people are more engaged in primary sector, that means it is a developing country. So if you see the India, you will find that 52% people are employed in primary sector, 26 to 28% people are engaged in secondary sector, and 24 to 26% people are engaged in tertiary sector. So in India, by seeing the occupational structure, we can say that India is also not very developed, and India is also a developing country and more engaged in primary activity. Alright. So now the last aspect which decides the characteristic of the population is health. So why health is important? Because see, if the person is educated, very intelligent, but he is not healthy and sleeping on the bed all the time, then his education is of no use. But at the same time, if the person is even not educated also, but he is healthy, then he can do some or the other work. So health is very important, and that's why the government give very much importance to the health of the people. And because of the government effort, we have able to decrease the death rate to 7.2%, and we have increased the life expectancy from 36.7 year to 64.7 year in our country. And the death rate in our country has decreased because of the various measures we have taken, like we have increased the facility in the public sector of the hospitals. We have controlled many infectious diseases. We have got the vaccine for those diseases, and then we have adopted the modern medical practices, and that has led to the decrease in the death rate of our country. But still we do have some health issue, like we suffer from malnutrition. Many people in our country suffer from malnutrition. They are not getting the calories they deserve to get every day. Alright, and we don't have proper drinking water and proper sanitation facility. So there are some health issue, but still we have done good in the health sector, and we have decreased our death rate and increased our life expectancy. And health is very important to decide the characteristic of a population. So now we will deal with some separate topic like adolescent population. So what is adolescent population? The children of 10 years to 19 years, they come under this category of adolescent population. And this population are the resources of our country for the future. Though most of them don't do reproductive works, they don't produce anything economically, but still we take lot of care of this group because they are the resources of our future, and they have large amount of nutrition requirement, and we have to fulfill their nutrition requirement, because if we don't fulfill their nutrition requirement today, then it will affect their health, and they will not become a healthy citizen of tomorrow. All right. So like in India also, the many girls are suffering from anemic. They are, most of them are anemic. They are suffering from anemia, and so lot of care and attention should be given to the adolescent population in their food, and they should be properly developed so that we can have a better future citizen for our country. Now another topic is national population policy. So what is national population policy? Actually, the family planning measures have been introduced by the government to improve the health and welfare of the individual. So what is this family planning measures? This family planning measures was introduced by government in 1952 on the voluntary basis. Voluntary basis means it's your wish whether you want to adopt it or you don't want to adopt it. So this family planning measures is to have the family with some planning. Like earlier what they used to have do, Indians, they don't have any family planning. They used to produce in any numbers of children. And nowadays the people used to plan that we will have 2 children or we will have 1 children. So they used to plan the family of them by using the medical facilities. So that is what called family planning, and the government has introduced it in 1952 on the voluntary basis. It's not compulsory, though we says that good, it is good to have family planning, but we don't force anybody. All right, and we also says that it will make the people responsible and planned parents. Okay, so you have to be a responsible and planned parents, because if you are producing some children, it's your responsibility to provide them resource of good education and health, right? So if you're not providing a good health and education to our children, then that children will not be able to take care of themselves in the future. So at least we need to provide them good health and good education to make them a better citizen, and that's we can do by doing the family planning. So the national population policy we have made in 2000, which suggests so many things, like it gives compulsory education for the children of 14 years. Up to the 14 years you have to study, you have to compulsory go to the school. And then it also asks to increase the infant mortality rate of the people, because infant mortality rate is like the children which are of the age of 1 year, below the age of 1 year actually. So when the children are born, they are very sensitive, their life is very dangerous, because they need to take lot of care, because many child dies before they reach the age of 1 year. That is called infant mortality rate. So infant mortality rate was earlier very high. Most of the children used to die before the age of 1. But now the government has planned it and taken many measures against it, and now the infant mortality rate has been decreased, and we are still planning in 2000 population policy program that it should decrease to 30% per 1000 person, up to 30 per 1000 live birth. Alright, so this is the plan of our government to decrease the infant mortality rate. And then we have also planned in 2000 population policy that we should give vaccination to all the children, so that those diseases, those infectious diseases can be controlled, so that they don't get those dangerous diseases in the future. And also there is a planning to delay the marriage age of the girls, so that if the marriage age of the girls are delayed, then they can have the good education, and they can become parents after they become healthy, and this will also help to control the population. And also it suggests to have a better family welfare and people oriented program. All right, so those programs should be made which bring family welfare and which keep the people at the center. So those programs should be made according to the national population policy. So this national population program of 2000 had some good points for some special measures for the adolescent population also. So because the adolescent population is an important section of our society and they are the future citizen of our country, so the government want them to have a good nutrition in the, and then the government also don't wanted to put them in any future problems. They don't wanted that they come get into into the trouble of unwanted pregnancy, or they get the diseases of STD and many other diseases. So because of those things, this adolescent population is being controlled. Adolescent population has been taken care of in this population policy program also. So for the adolescent population, the government has suggested so many measures, like to delay the marriage age and the childbearing times. See, if you delay the marriage age of the women's or the marriage of the children, then what will happen? Suppose if a girl is getting married at 16 years, then from the 16 years she will become reproductive and she will start producing the children, and then by the time she reaches 46 she will produce so many children, right? But if you delay their marriage age and she is getting married at 26, after 26, then what is happening? You are reducing the 10 years marriage age of reproductive age of that women. Alright, so when you delay the marriage, you actually reduce the reproductive age of that child. Alright, so when you decrease the reproductive age of that child or that person, then you can able to control the population, because if you delay the marriage age, then you decrease the childbearing time of that person, and then you are able to control the population of that population of the country. Then you can also it also asks to educate them about the protective sex. So sex education is also needed to be given to the adolescent population, because sometimes wrong information or can lead them to the trouble. So the government also suggests them to have the sex education so they can have the protective sex in the future. All right. And they also, the government asked that this contraceptive measures should be made available in the market, and it should be given and it should be accessible to the people, so that even if they are, because it have the age from 10 years to 19 years, and in India after 18 years the girls can get married. So if they are getting married, they should know about the protective sex, and they should know about the how to have protective sex with the help of contraceptive, and they can be accessible to those contraceptive in the market also, so that they can control their unwanted pregnancy and they can have the planned family. And also providing food supplement to this population is also important step taken by the National Population Program for the adolescent. And it also asks to take a strict legal action against the child marriage. Alright, so all these steps are being taken by the government to educate the population, to have a healthy population in the future, because if we have the educated and healthy population, then only our country can develop. So this much is there in your chapter. So I hope you understand this chapter. If you understand this chapter, do subscribe my channel MP Social View. Thanks for watching and happy learning.